Hi there, welcome to the Gardens and Graveyard channel. My name is Charisma, and today we're meeting in the greenhouse, or I'm standing outside the greenhouse right this moment. We're gonna head in there and we're going to take divisions or cuttings off of all of this dusty miller. So I have grown this dusty miller. It's been in the garden for 2 years. I just wanted to change where it was going next year. And they divide and replicate so easy by cuttings that I thought I would start a tray of cuttings to overwinter, get their roots established, get them going, and we could have a whole bunch of dusty miller next spring. And then we'll get into the crown of the plant and see if I can make a couple of divisions as well and have maybe 2 or possibly 4 really good established plants with roots on them already that I could put out in the garden next year. So that's what we're going to be working on. Dusty miller is a decorative artemisia, and we also grow artemisia in our medicine garden, and it works the same way as far as propagation goes. So if you have artemisia, if you have this lace style dusty miller, or if you have the big leaf that doesn't have as much like lace effect, I guess it's the cut effect on the dusty miller, you could do it in any kind of artemisia plant exactly the same way. So let me show you what I'm gonna do, and then we'll just do it and see how many plants we get out of it. So as you can see, my greenhouse is getting quite full of perennials that I'm overwintering. And as a reminder, this is a Palram Canopia hybrid greenhouse. So the ceiling is opaque and the walls are clear, although there's lots of condensation, so they don't look as clear as they could be. You can see this panel's pretty clear. We do not heat this greenhouse, so it's essentially an elaborate cold frame, and I wanted it so that I can overwinter some tender perennials, so I could get seeds started in the spring, and so I could grow peppers and tomatoes because our climate is so cool. We do not freeze here, so a lot of these perennials would stay in the ground in normal years, but we're making some adjustments and changing around the arrangement of our garden. So we have a whole bank of begonias that do overwinter in our garden, but these were 3. They've been divided into 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 plants now. And I love them. They're my favorite begonia. They're this really dark leaf with this really beautiful little white flower. And I want a whole bunch of them. So I'm really excited to have divided them and put them in my garden. And then the dichondra falls are a tender perennial. So some years they will winter over, but most years they won't. It gets a little too cold where we live. The Veronicas, what are these? Verbenas. These are the decorative verbenas. They also will overwinter in my garden, but I want to put them in different places than where they were living. So they got dug up and divided and put into, did we even divide them? No, we didn't even divide them. We just dug them up, put them in containers in here to overwinter them so we could put them in the garden next year in a different location. The coleus is just an experiment. I'm just curious to see how long it'll last in my garden. Excuse my filthy hands. I've been digging around in the garden already today. This is another project that I wanted to get done and share with you, is the Dusty Miller project, right? But just so you know, the Suncredibles, these are proven winter Suncredibles. They will also overwinter in my garden. So normally I would leave them in the ground. They would get cut back and they'd come back the next year. But again, I'm changing where things are living in the garden, and I didn't want to lose these perennials, so we just brought them into the greenhouse. This is the Vertigo pennisetum. This is a very borderline perennial in my garden, and it can rot really easily because we get so much rain. So this year I decided to bring it in, because every other year I've lost them. I decided to bring it in and keep it nice and warm, and then I'll have this really well-established plant to start with next spring. So while the greenhouse looks really full, it's really just perennials that are going to go back into the garden come April-ish. So until then, it's gonna be a tight squeeze when it's time to start seeds. But I'm only starting, like, I think 3 different kinds of seeds this year. So we're gonna make it work. The Dusty Miller I'm gonna put in the seed trays. I've already prepped the tray. This is a seed starter mix with potting soil because I wanted to retain a little bit more moisture than just seed starting mix. So it's very sandy, grainy kind of material. And the thing that you want to make sure that you start off with when you're taking cuttings off of plants is you want it to be fairly sterile. Now, if you were a nursery and you're trying to grow these to sell, or even if you were like selling them for a plant sale on a garden club or something like that, you'd want to be even more careful about sterilizing things and making sure this was very sterile, and that the implement that you use to cut the cuttings are super sterile. I did wipe these down with some rubbing alcohol. I sharpened them, and I'm happy with just dealing with it this way. If I was going to sell these or give them away, or propagate them in some way that I really didn't want to risk anything, I'd be using a fresh razor blade, and that is really the best way to go about doing cuttings. Typically you can just use like these have been sterilized, and I can use I don't have to sterilize between every single cut necessarily, but if I was taking cuttings from this and then I wanted to jump over and start taking cuttings from this, I would definitely sterilize in between, just so that if this plant had any kind of fungal disease or any other kind of disease, I wasn't transferring those spores between plants. I'm not doing that. Anyways, today I'm just taking cuttings off of this plant. So this is a Dusty Miller. I don't know, I mean, it's been in my garden for a couple of years. I don't know what the brand was. It is very cut. This is called a cut leaf. And I'll pop a picture up on the screen here so you can see what other Dusty Millers might look like. I personally just really love this very lacy, like frothy look of the Dusty Miller. I love using Dusty Miller in the garden. It's just a classic to me. It has such a beautiful color. It looks gorgeous in wintertime. It looks beautiful in the spring. It gives kind of a nice rest from all the different colors that could happen in the spring or in the summer and springtime. So I really love having Dusty Miller in the garden. So let us get into doing cuttings, and so I could show you a little bit more detail on what that looks like, and then we'll just keep going. With your Dusty Miller, you're going to come in here and you're going to well, first of all, I'm just going to cut it down here, just above the crotch of a leaf node, just to get us started with something. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I want really the tender growth. So this piece right here is pretty great. So I'm going to come in here and cut. And then I don't want any of these lower leaves to be in the soil. So I'm going to remove these, but I want it to be really clean, and I don't want a lot of scarring. So I'm just gonna cut. I could even go a little bit closer. Essentially, everywhere you see the green, roots will come out of there. And then I really don't want more than a couple of leaves up here. So a couple things that I can do is I can cut them like this so there's not as much leaf canopy, or I can cut them all the way down. So then I just have a couple of small leaves. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I don't want to just stuff this into the soil, because I don't want to crush all of that open cambium, all those cells that are exposed. So I'm just going to take a little, you can use something smaller than this, but because our stems are quite large, I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to create a little space in there. So it goes in there nice without touching any soil. And then I'm going to pat the soil down around it. So I'm just going to go ahead and make space for all of them now, because I just find it's easier to do that. It's faster and more efficient. So with this piece that we have already cut, and we cut off the top, essentially I could come in and take another cutting off of there, remove more of these lower leaves, and then this could be another cutting. And I can just continue doing that if I want it to use up this whole stem and not use so much of this leaf canopy. However, we have so much that I'm not worried about that, because I would have to cut this all down anyways this winter, and the thinner stems actually take a little bit better than the really thick stem. So I just want to go ahead and use the tips as much as I can. And if I pull these off and I've created sort of a strip off of there, that's okay, because root hairs will come out everywhere there's green. You could see this one has branched out. So I could take this one out of there. I can kind of look around. There's another little one right there. There's another one. Another one. And this one. So just from this tip, I got 6 babies. So, and then if I wanted to, I can just cut here and here and have 3 more easily. Right, now that I have this plant sort of pruned, essentially, I've been kind of going through and making sure it doesn't have a bunch of dead stuff in it as I went along. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning up anything that looks broken or dead. Just going to pull it out of there. Alright, so now I have a pretty clean looking plant, and then I can start sort of assessing what stems I want to keep, or if I want to keep all of them. So what I want to show you here, let's see, I have a good example. There's one that's got like a whole bunch. I guess this one's a pretty good example. So you can see there's a new sprout here and a new sprout here. It's not necessary for me to keep all of this new growth. This was new growth from this year. The lighter color and the green color is last year's growth. So in order to keep my roots really strong, and I don't want like this leggy crazy plant next year, so I'm just going to cut it right down to that sprout. And this one has a crossing branch, so that's not good. This one just has a little dead tips. I'll just take off the dead tips. So now I'm just assessing branch by branch. So these are new branches. They don't have any baby sprouts. These are the sprouts. This one has a couple of nodes. This one has a node here and here, and a little bit of a plant coming up right here, a little bit of a plant here. There's also a plant down here. So I'm going to take this one out and let this plant grow. And then this is a baby, so we'll just leave that alone. This one. I also want the plant to have plenty of airflow, and I don't want it to be super leggy. See how this one's like coming out of the pot? It's kind of weak, and it's weak down on the bottom of the plant. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it down to this node. Right here, there's a little plant coming up right there. Essentially, this can be a cutting, right? I could cut this off here, take some bottom leaves off, and pop this in some soil. So why don't we go ahead and try that right inside this pot. And then we might get like a really big plant next year. We'll see. So yeah, just stem by stem going through. Again, this one's growing really funny, so I'm just going to take it out of there. This is a dead leaf. This one. Just kind of doing the strength test. They're super weak. I'm getting rid of it. This one could possibly be a cutting. We could try it. Got these spaces right here. There's a leaf coming out way down here, so it's going to be a lot stronger if we can get the plants down deep. This one is growing all scrolly, so I don't need that. This one's crossing, and there's one way down deep, so we'll just take that out. Okay. All right, that's kind of all the damage I'm willing to do today. Let's take this. This one's dead. Okay. All right, in the spring, it's potential that I pull this out of here and there's more than one plant, but we've put it into quite a lot of shock, trimming it, taking cuttings off of it, and I really only have space for so many plants in here. So this is perfectly fine to leave it like this for winter. We'll water it in a little bit. Water in these cuttings for sure. Give it a little bit of water. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your life with us. in abundance. And then we'll go ahead and water all of these in and get them nice and tucked in. I'm gonna take it out of its tray and let it drain. For this bit, it won't have to be watered that much, but you do want it to keep moist. Because if they dry out before they establish any roots, it's just like they're just like leaves, right? They're just gonna dry up and die. So that has to stay moist in order for the roots to grow. They will grow fairly quickly. So I'm not too worried about that. And there it is. So we've got 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, maybe 29 plants here. Do I expect 100% success on these? No, I do not. But I do know that when I've done this in the past, they're pretty good, like 70, 75% survival rate. So that's awesome. And that's how you do cuttings on just about every perennial that you could want to do a cutting on. I just love doing it on the Dusty Miller because they're super easy. It's really easy to do the Dusty Miller. This Dusty Miller doesn't have any kind of a trademark or anything like that. So, you know, if you are doing cuttings on a perennial and they have a trademark, just know that it is illegal to sell them, but it is not illegal to propagate them. You can propagate them and put them around your garden. You'll have a better success if you just buy them as plants, obviously. But this is an easy, fast, and kind of a fun way to propagate more of the same exact plant that you want to grow. So let me show you one other thing. After doing all the cuttings, I have a little bit of a mess. Mostly they went into the bin. But I also have this sink full of Dusty Miller, right? And Dusty Miller will dry really nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these ones that are all fresh and clean and beautiful, take them in the house and make a little wreath out of them to enjoy through the winter months. Could I have been really selective and picky and used some of this? Absolutely. But it's really just not necessary. I'm happy with what I have here, happy with what I have there to do a secondary project. And I'm really excited that we are really utilizing this greenhouse this year. This is just like so much fun to me. That is gonna do it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you're celebrating your life, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.